Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos. It's a podcast for geniuses and the only podcast where we take a look at the four pillars of modern misery, anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I am Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko.
Real quick, we got a patron to thank. These are one of the motherfuckers who gave us money. What do we use the money for? Hosting the episodes, paying our guests, foreshadowing, and Sicko Shock 2.
And expensive audio dramas, yes.
Yeah. So our newest patron is MF name Oski.
Thank you, Oski. Were these American dollars?
These are American dollars. Did you think they were Australian because their name began with Os? Because I did.
I just like it when we get different currencies. I just imagine, like, in our inventory, you get to look at all the different coins.
I want, like, goblin credits or some shit from the goblin country. Anyway, well, what am I saying? Pounds. Jesus, this is like our falling down joke. Anyway, we mentioned having a guest. We pay our guests with the Patreon money. We have a guest right now, Joe, don't we? Can you introduce our guest?
Yes, we have with us the brain behind the Red Ring of Death webcomic, the comic that makes me feel like shit, but it's supposed to. Sean Rose.
Wow, that's a beautiful introduction. Thank you very much. Yes, my name is I am Sean Rose. Mostly, yeah. So Red Ring of Death is kind of like my main thing right now in terms of the comic I'm making. Mm-hmm. I do a few other things. It's a lot of I draw a lot, do a lot of comic stuff, but I do some podcasting stuff. I am on a podcast right now called The Last Best Babylon 5 podcast, which is just me and my friend Steve and Ben, and we're watching through the show Babylon 5. We're almost done with it, and we just talk about it. We have a good time, tell a lot of silly jokes, that sort of thing. And also, I have a podcast that hasn't had a new episode in a little while, but it's called The Hornet's Nest, which is about an ex-supervillain who becomes a classic rock DJ in New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, I love the Hornet's Nest. Just the concept and the execution is so specific.
Thank you.
The voice is so unique, and it's like it's the thing I love most, and it's the thing that all of our fucking audio dramas are. Which is the thing I love and respect most is a thing that the market was not clamoring for. The niche did not need to be filled, and so the fact that you are deciding this is the niche I'm filling is so admirable.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I think for that, it's that's like for me. There's like a couple. There's a couple holes in that. I feel like everything, including Red Ring of Death, is like I get very sentimental about this, I guess, but it's all very like personal to me in a weird way. So, so Hornet's Nest is like the character, the Dr. Hornet, who is the ex-supervillain on it, was a character I did on this show called the telethon that I did with my friends at the Playground Theater 10 years ago.
Shit, remember when people used to do live shit?
I know, right? It was a midnight Saturday night show, which I can't imagine doing now, but I was in my early 20s. But we just were like, oh, we need like a villain character in it. And so I just started doing this character called Dr. Hornet, where I got this like Slipknot mask, and I would dress up in like a suit and like a yellow shirt. And I would just like do this voice that sounds like this, and do it. And then at some point, like with the character, I just started having him talk about like prog rock because I just thought it was funny. I just had him start talking about like Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes and stuff and Jethro Tull because I just thought it was funny. I was just like, oh, it'd be funny if he was into that for some reason.
It is
that's
like,
just his thing.
Anyone like the fucking far be it from me to ever shout out another podcast. But Brian Quimby's Guys podcast, the entire reason that's good is that like it's so fucking funny for there to be a guy who's just about something, and so this a prog rock, classic rock guy is hilarious, and having it be an ex-super.
He's a very he's a very particular kind of person in that he's a it's kind of like a blues lawyer is the term. Do you know that term?
No.
Blues lawyer. That's a term for. I think that's the term. It's a term for basically just like a really rich guy, like a lawyer or has a doctor or whatever, who just like has like a lot of guitars and like plays music as like a hobbyist.
Oh yeah,
and,
that's
hangs out in Guitar Center and like that kind of thing. That's what Dr. Hornet is.
That's from Eagleheart. Dean Norris played a blues lawyer.
There you go. It's one of those things, and they're like usually like not particularly talented, but they just have a lot of money, and they have a lot of, and also they very often they're like audiophiles. They spend a lot of money on like audio equipment and like getting like really good sound. Like I have a running joke with Dr. Hornet that he has the Neil Young Pono player, which is Neil Young released an MP3 player. Well, no, it wasn't an MP3 player. It was a FLAC files player called a Pono.
God.
It looked like a Toblerone. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't.
And he put it out because he's like, he's like MP3 and 3s and streaming don't have good audio quality.
Too lossy.
You need FLAC files, which are the lossless files that you can listen to on the go. And the running joke, and it got discontinued in like a year. Like it was a complete failure. But the running joke in it is that Dr. Hornet still has one, and he swears by it, and he's part of like an online community that keeps it going, and all this like he's in that specific. He just has a lot of money. He's a retired supervillain.
Oh my God! Sorry, I just looked up a Pono, and
I
know you said it was Toblerone shaped, but I had to.
Yeah.
I imagined. And I shouldn't have doubted you, but I imagined he misremembered. This is such a piece of shit. Imagine having this in your pocket.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
I would eat that.
It's not.
I would.
And I, I love Neil Young, but wasn't gonna buy one of those things. And it was just like, but Dr. Hornet would. We have like a running joke that he has like a Mustang 2. A friend of ours suggested that he has some like old weird car. Like he just like is spending his money on stupid shit.
Love it,
and
yes.
he hosts a radio show, and that's like his thing. And I also really love, I love like old radio. I love call-in shows. I think that's such a lost art now. I'm a big fan of The Best Show with Tom Sharpling, and especially in like the old days of The Best Show when it was just on the radio, and you would just get weirdos who would just call in who happened to hear it and who would just be pissed off. Like I love stuff. I love that. I love people who just call in and are just like, I hate this show. Like this sucks, and they just get into an argument on the air. And also, I'm a big fan of. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Connecticut, and we had. WFAN, which is like the sports radio there. And Mike Francesa and Mike and the Mad Dog were like the big guys there.
God, yes.
And they would just get into, and this still happens, they just get into arguments with other hosts on the show, other hosts on the station. They get into like beefs. They'll spend like hours of time just talking about how other shows on the station suck and like how there were, and people like listen to this. And they're just like, yeah, well, I've never liked it. I've never liked the morning show. I've always thought it was like they do this all the time, and it's just like I can't believe this is real. And so that's a constant fountain of inspiration to me. Like I think that's just the funniest thing. That is just like a very, and I don't know if that's just like a local New York thing. I don't know if that happens. I feel like that does happen in other radio stuff, and it's also because like it's a market that's kind of. Not dead, but like it doesn't have the reach it used to have.
It's not thriving.
No, not in the age of podcasting. Things have changed a lot. So it's just kind of these people who are kind of holding on to these jobs who have usually been in it for like 30 years and they all hate each other. And they hate their callers and they hate their listeners.
I love how Dr. Hornet has, despite all of his experience, absolutely zero skill at like pushing back against the callers. Like as soon as anyone gets in his face, he just like crumbles.
Yeah, so he's very thin-skinned. Will immediately like if he does push back, he just gets immediately like aggressive, he's clearly hurt in some kind of way, and like he takes everything personally. And he's also like the thing that's funny about Dr. Hornet too in this show is that he's a very bad customer. That's a thing that we've established in it. There's a whole one of my favorite episodes of the show. I would recommend looking this up. Where there's an episode where he has a guest on who is an expert in Lord of the Rings and J.R.R. Tolkien, and because there's so many classic rock songs that are like about Tolkien, like Lord of the Rings and stuff, he's like, oh, I don't know that much about these books. I tried reading them. I don't know that much. So I'm going to bring on this guest and, we'll talk about it and I'll learn about it. And then like the guest played by my friend Steve Winchell, who also co-writes the show with me and produces it and all that.
He's immense. We love Steve.
Yeah, good egg. I've known Steve for almost 20 years now. Too long. But he he played the Tolkien guy, and he's just like an annoying, like he's just insufferable immediately, and you can tell like listening to it that Dr. Hornet is immediately like, oh, this was a mistake, but and he's so bored, but he has to like hold it back, and then eventually he just starts ranting about how he got kicked out of Stop and Shop. Which is the chain, New England grocery chain. He got kicked out because he was listening to open back headphones, which is like a higher end type of headphone that leaks sound.
It's a different acoustic stage.
Yes, it has a better sound stage. But the problem, I'm getting into Dr. Hornet mode talking about this, but it has a different sound stage, but the problem is that other people hear it. So that's the problem. So he was loudly listening to music there, and he got kicked out, and he kicked over an Entenmann's stand on the way out. So he's banned from all Stop and Shops in the area. And it's just him ranting about that while also telling this Tolkien guy that he hates him. And that's one of my favorite ones, but there's a lot in that vein.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, and like, it feels silly considering all the stupid, ambitious shit we've done to be like, this is something that we could never have done. But like, the sort of gags you're describing that tickle us so much. Like when we do the equivalent of that, we're just sort of like, we're just riffing situations. We're just talking about like, what if the guy did?
Sure.
We don't do it. We just riff the guy, you know?
Yeah.
But like,
and you do it. Like you actually have to do it.
Oh yeah, it part of it too was that like when we stopped doing the telethon, the original show the character was from, we were like, oh, we should do a spin-off with Dr. Hornet, and it's like, oh, he would be hosting like a talk show or something, like Space Ghost or something like that, which I love. But Space Ghost is like a big inspiration on this, I think, without me being cognizant of it. I love Space Ghost a lot. But I was like, no, I think he would be the host of a classic rock radio show. And then Steve and I would just like, we would just be doing like chatting together while working or whatever, just doing like long bits of Dr. Hornet being like, nah, I'm not into this. Like, nah, overrated. Like, I don't like that Yes album or whatever. And just like going back and forth and like getting pissy with the callers and stuff. And then it's like, we should just do this because I think it's fun. It's such a granular idea. And we said it in New Haven just because like I'm from Milford, which is close to New Haven, and Steve is from Stratford. We're both from Connecticut. Yeah, so it's like, it's also very like nostalgic in that way. Like I used to go to New Haven a lot. And it's a very nice city, so it's a nice place to set it. So it has like that like we wanted to give it like kind of like an East Coast kind of local kind of feel to it, which is part of the reason. Like that's also kind of inspired by the Best Show, which was formerly in New Jersey, and it had like a big like kind of New Jersey feel to it. So that was kind of part of that too. But yeah, just like all those things together, and also like the music in it is fun for me to. When I was like 17, I got like really into classic rock stuff,
and who did?
And I got like exactly like, and so part of it is me, I think, kind of poking fun at myself at that age when I was like, oh, now I don't like anything after 1980. You know, like
that's that thing that you mentioned this the trait of Dr. Hornet, which is just to like dismiss certain bands, albums, just out of hand without explanation.
He's extremely particular about his tastes and really thinks that he's superior to other people because of his tastes, which is a thing that I used to feel when I was younger at certain points. And so it's me kind of, I think, looking back at that. But it's also like, like he hates punk. He hates punk completely. He hates grunge, particularly Pearl Jam. He like really hates Pearl Jam. For some reason, I don't know why particular Pearl Jam. But then we added a wrinkle not too long ago that he's starting to really like ska. Like he kind of sees something in ska. Yes. We had an episode where we played, somebody requested Time Bomb by Rancid, and he played it and he was like, not bad. and then it just like snuck up on him, and then he just kept playing it over and over again and just like singing it to himself. It's like, I think I'm gonna play Time Bomb again. That's pretty good. Pretty good. And we were gonna do a thing. We haven't done it yet. We were gonna do a thing where he like found like a community of like ska kids in New Haven and became friends with them. Oh my god! Like, those kids know how to dance.
I mean, if you ever want to do that episode,
you
need two guys to stand.
Yeah. Oh, I gladly. I absolutely will. I know, Tom, we've had you on. Joe, we've almost had you on before, but we will at some. We have to get the tough thing about it, and I'm preaching to the choir here because you are also two guys that do a podcast, but it's hard to like. Really, it's only Steve and me working on it, and it's a show that takes a lot of work, takes a lot of writing, a lot of editing. The editing for it is really fun. I actually really like editing the show, but it's hard. It takes obviously it takes a lot of time. So it's like Steve and I wrote some episodes literally like almost a year ago and recorded some, but they're not done because we just have other things going on. And it's a bummer. I think we probably should get help in some kind of way to help us out with it. And because it's not out of any like lack of love for the show, like we really love it. It's just like we have other things we're recording. We have other creative projects. But something I might do is that I am considering. I was thinking about it recently, and I was just like, oh, if I made like a Dr. Hornet comic, I could think of like 20 things, and I could just do it easily. And so recently I'm like, I should really just do that. I should just make some Dr. Hornet comics, because I've just been like drawing him and other characters from the show and little things, and it's like, I think I could do it easily. Like I could do it pretty easily. So that's something I might do. There might be a Dr. Hornet comic at some point. So keep an eye out for that. It's a project that like doesn't get like, I appreciate you bringing it up because it's not a thing that's gotten a lot of attention. It was featured in Vulture once, which is kind of funny.
How'd you get? I keep trying to get
I don't know.
sickos
This was
in there.
years ago. So this was like pre-pandemic. This is how long ago this was. It literally like maybe like a month before it. And because we just submitted it to a bunch of places, and it was the Tolkien episode, and they just featured it on it. We didn't get any notifications about it. It was just up. It was just on it.
Hell yeah.
And it was like great. And like we had so much momentum, and then the pandemic happened, and then we couldn't record in the studio we were recording in at that point anymore. And we just kind of didn't know what to do for a while, and then we didn't make more episodes for like another year, unfortunately. So I think that kind of futs that a little bit, but I love it. I love it very much. It's one of those things I really need to get. I want to get back to.
Well, hopefully, we've hyped it up so that some of the Sicko fans check it out.
I hope so.
It's like I say, it's just like there's a streak of this throughout Chicago that I really appreciate, and it's why I love the city so much. But people who make, and I'm going to say dumb, but I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, I know
make
exactly what you mean.
Dumb art that, again, the market is not asking for, but they do it knowing that the market does not ask for it, just because like it would make me so pleased.
Yeah, it's like the reason I'm doing it is just because it's an intersection of like things that I just love. Like I think about it sounds very corny to say, and I feel the same way about Red Ring in certain ways too, where it's like literally I just think about Dr. Hornet and it makes me smile. Like I think about like Dr. Hornet getting kicked out of Stop and Shop, and it's like, that's funny. Or I think about like even like I just listen to I would literally have like a playlist that's just a Dr. Hornet playlist where I'll just listen to some song and it's like, oh, he would love this, and then I just add it. Like, you know what I mean? It's like maybe I'm being too hyping myself up too much. But it's I have a love for the character, and it's gotten to the point where, because early on when we started doing it, I had to listen back to it to like edit it for some episodes, and it was hard at first because I was just hearing my own voice and my own performance, and that was tough. But then eventually I was like, okay, it's not me, it's Dr. Hornet, and and now that's what I can listen to it and actually like find it funny because I don't think of it as being me doing it, if that makes sense. I've somehow separated those two things. So it's very much like a character in my mind now that I'm just kind of happy exists. So
I definitely identify with the sort of the feeling of just to even think of a thing brings you joy, because, and I'm going to say a thing that Joe and I have been, where it is that it's from a project that it was not meant to be produced. And I don't think it will ever be produced, but without getting into it, where me and Joe are in a situation where you have to coach a little league team, and it's like straight from a movie. Like, in fact, I think one of the jokes was the other team is coached by Keanu Reeves from Hardball. He's doing Hardball now.
And there was another team that is one of our kids that quits and starts his own team.
Yeah, we're like, you think you can do this any better? And he does. He does it so much better. Anyway, the point being, we're like trying to, we need to, like, we're trying to cheat because we're so bad we can't do it legitimately. And so our idea is we hire a ringer, like an adult who knows how to play baseball really well. And then someone is like, don't you know that won't work because that guy looks so much like an adult? And then this is the joke that like we cannot. As soon as we think of this, we're just like, it's a great day. Our idea was that like we would dub the kid over. Like we would like put him in a cabana to the side.
That's funny.
He would do the swings, and we dub that onto the kid.
And everyone would be convinced by this too.
That's very good.
Anyway,
I like that. You have to, you follow ideas that bring you joy. You know what? There's a baseball idea I was riffing on with a friend of mine recently, and I was just like, maybe one day I'll use this because it's funny. I don't know how it would work. And it was called. We had an idea where it was like, and I was like, oh, this almost sounds like a sports manga idea, where it's like it was the sports MLB is like, well, we need to. Or some fictional baseball universe is like, we need to make baseball more exciting. How are we going to do it? We're gonna get this group of like surly baseball players who are like kind of outside the tracks. Like maybe they got banned from the sport from being too rough or something. And we're gonna have them get their own team together called the Road Warriors. And basically they don't have a city affiliation. They just roam the country, and if they are able to stop, if there's a game happening, if they're able to stop one of the teams from getting to the stadium by any means necessary, then they replace them, and then they have to play the Road Warriors. And so the team is like, I'm sorry, everyone, the Mets couldn't make it. Folks, and like the Road Warriors drive and they're like, no, and they're being like, why is this allowed? How could you sanction this? This is unsafe. And they're like, damn it, we need to make this sport more exciting. These guys know how to, and they like let them kind of like break the rules a little bit, and like kind of they get a little, and it's like, like maybe it kind of follows like their story, like maybe like they're like they're outside, they're on the other side of the tracks, but they're looking for a chance at redemption. But they're a little they're rough and tumble.
They have
like,
the power-ups in backyard baseball. They can hit a grounder that goes into the ground and pops out of the outfield.
Yeah. And so I'm always just like, there might be something to that. Maybe one of these days, there might be something to that.
So we got to ask you, Sean.
Okay.
The killer question, the question that all guests must answer. I'm gonna take a wild guess that your answer is gonna be yes. Are you an anime sicko?
Yeah, I would say probably. Here's what I would say. So I have thought about this, believe it or not. So you have can I give like because you have the 4 pillars, right? This is the thing. If I can do this is my how I feel about the 4 pillars. Yeah. And then you can tell me, the answer is yes. But this is how I feel. 2 of them, okay, no, 1 of them is really bad, and that's work. That's to the point where I hate to even talk about it. Oh yeah. it makes me so depressed to talk about my day job that it's just I don't want anything to do. I don't want that anyway. I don't even want to think about it.
It's like you have a big leech on your head that's sucking up all your blood, and someone's tell me about your leech.
Exactly.
Exactly. My leech.
Anytime anytime he's like, well, what do you do for a living? And I'm just I don't want to talk about it. What I do to live, I don't want to talk about. It's not worth talking about. People are like, oh, what's your career? And I sit at a computer, I make calls. I don't know. It's not worth talking about. It's a day job. So that's I would say the only pillar that for me personally is truly miserable. That one is really bad. Posting, I have mixed feelings about. I have a love-hate relationship because I do it. I'm thinking about this now as I'm talking about it. I do it. I enjoy some posts, but I also really hate some. Some really bother me,
but you don't hate them enough to stop posting.
No, exactly. It's a curse. It's a kind of a curse. So it's I have mixed feelings on that. Some posts I think are very, very funny. Some of them I am just kind of it feels kind of ephemeral. It feels like one of those. It feels like a house of cards that's just going to collapse. You know what I mean? It's sands that can kind of just drift away. I guess that's true for everything. But it feels especially true for posts. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. But then the other 2, video games and anime, are the lights of my life. They're too. That's what I live for. You know, like there's the joy. That's just a next to like music and art and other things. I mean, those are forms of art.
Those appear in video games. Yeah,
I've heard they're starting to put songs in there.
Exactly. Yes. And you know my family and friends and all that. But you know, those are also make me happy. But you know, like anime, I just love those things. Maybe too much to the point where it's maybe concerning to some people. But so yeah, I guess I think that averages out to a yes. I'm gonna say that averages out to a yes.
I think part of what you came to the right answer. It's like your math homework, you got the right answer, but your work is all fucked up.
Yeah,
I think your misapprehension here is that you assume that a pillar's placement in the 4 pillars means it's good or bad. No,
you know what? Fair. Okay,
every
that's fair.
anime sicko hates work, but the fact is, it's one of the pillars of your existence, and
that's true. Yeah, that's all right. You know what?
Fuck.
That makes perfect sense. So you got me there.
Hell yeah.
So no, that makes so yeah. Those are my that's my feelings on life. For me personally, to be fair, video games are a problem for me sometimes because I do, especially like, I don't know, since the pandemic, I have been home more and I find myself, I get distracted by video games, when I should be working on art and stuff. And that is a problem, that I'm trying to manage not particularly well, but that's what happens when, I am unfortunately, the art I'm making is not my living. It is unfortunately something I have to do outside of work hours. And a lot of the time, honestly, after I work, I'm just very tired and I'm just like, I just need to fucking play Final Fantasy or something. I gotta not think about things. So it's like, you get it. I'm preaching to the choir here.
We're the choir. We know about choir.
All right, when I brought up Red Ring initially, maybe I shouldn't have included the word shit from the jump. I apologize. I'm actually a big fan of it. It's just like, am I not correct that the goal of it is to achieve a very specific awful gamer feeling and hit the reader with it, right? Okay.
Yes. So for anybody who does not know about Red Ring of Death, there's a lot of people. So I'll explain. Basically, I do a comic. Red Ring of Death, it's a parody of gaming webcomics from the mid-2000s, specifically like the 2006 through I think the setup of it is that it's supposed to be from like 2000.
Worst time of humanity.
It's like 10 years, you're right. And I started it like it was actually about 4 years ago that I just started like doodling it. I'll give like a little origin story. For years when I made comics, I just made like personal comics. I've done like personal comics for most of my time making comics. But when I kind of started getting interested in comics really was in the late 2000s. And gaming webcomics were it was almost like what superhero comics were to just comics, like it was it was everything. Like gaming webcomics were the most popular comics on the internet for a while. This is maybe to younger people. This is, it's weird. It's weird for me to even say that, but that's just the truth. Penny Arcade, Control-Alt-Delete, VG Cats, Dueling Analogs, Extra Life. This was
8-bit theater. That's
8-bit theater.
Little guys.
8-bit theater has so many fucking words.
Yeah, 8-bit theater. PvP was a gaming webcomic at some point. It wasn't quite, but it's kind of in that same vein. It was just a thing of just like two guys sitting on a couch with controllers playing games and they complaining about Halo. That was just a thing. And very often also, in my experience, these comics were very bad most of the time. You'd get maybe one or two sometimes that were kind of funny, but like mostly pretty lousy comics. And very cheap, like very like early internet, like early Photoshop, copy and paste. There's usually a lot of copy and paste. Mm-hmm. Control-Alt-Delete was the most famous one. It was the most reviled. It was beloved and then reviled. It had a hate following that I was a part of in the late 2000s on the Something Awful forums. I was very much like somebody who hate Reddit, and it's weird for me to admit that, but it's true. I read it like every day. I would read it just to see how bad it was. because I don't know, I was 20, and so and I remember being around when, as folks know, the Lost comic, which is a very famous bad webcomic. I was there when that was
changing visual culture forever.
Yes, I call it the webcomic 9/11. I think that's very fair. I think you can say there's a pre and post, or JFK assassination, whatever you want to, whatever you compare it to. It was a bizarre event that changed everyone's lives. Is when that I remember, like, the day that was posted, like, everyone was going crazy. And I'm like, what's going on? I thought that the guy, Tim Buckley, who made the comic, maybe died. But no, he just posted the most insane comic ever made about his a character having a miscarriage, which was a very dark terror. He had never explored anything like that before. I think, like, the context for that comic is that the comic before it was just like a silly gamer gag comic. So to him, to do this extremely serious, a storyline that is punching way above his weight, he should not be going anywhere near this storyline. He does not have the gravity to cover it. For him to do that, everyone was like, no. Like, there was just this big of reaction of just like, oh no, this man should not be doing this. This is absolutely not. But just, and also just like shock of like, I can't believe he would do this. So that was, I remember that. And so webcomics, so it was very much just like in my, God help me, in my blood, these comics in a way.
I mean, like, anyone from that time who who had an opinion on GameCubes versus PS2s was reading them. Like, as you say, it cannot be overstated. These are inescapable. Like, I've read all of Kid Rad. I remember Kid Rad.
Kid Rad was which one was that?
That was the one that was in like the custom frame that had like animation sometimes.
Oh,
where
was that a sprite comic?
It was a sprite comic, but it was not taken from other games. All the sprites were created and were from fictional games.
Interesting. I don't know if I remember that one, but I know, there was Shredded Moose, which many people remember Shredded Moose.
So I know nothing about it. I was like, I read everything. It was most of it was garbage. At the time, I did not understand that it was garbage because I had no context. It is very funny to think that, like, when I went to a computer, I would go to Penny Arcade. Like, the thing I had to do was listen, or rather read the blog posts from those guys. It's very funny.
It was big. Penny Arcade would get quoted by, like, it reposted constantly. Like, it was like any gaming forum or anyone it was just like part of like the. Like, like that after they did the comic about like the Xbox controllers being too big, like that became like I think that's part of the reason why they made the controllers smaller was because they did a joke about that. And like Bungie gave them like an early preview of Halo 2 because they made fun of the first Halo. I have a book. I need to dig this up. I don't know where it is. I have a book that is the history of webcomics, and it was published in 2005.
Oh my God.
And
that was like the start of time.
Yes. I need to find this.
That's like a book called The History of 9/11 that was put out in like 2000.
Exactly. It's so interesting. I bought it like in like 2009, I think, in some bookstore. And there's actually some very interesting information in there about like webcomics from like the mid 90s and stuff. But it's really weird. And they have a lot of stuff about the split of the Mega Tokyo, the two guys in Mega Tokyo when they split up. If anyone, Mega Tokyo, which I think is still going, I forget. Boy. Anyway, I'll redirecting a little bit here. I read all these comics. I was very much part of this world, and I also got into like comics that I really, really loved through that. I got into Octopus Pie by Meredith Gran. I got into Casey Green's comics, Kate Beaton's comics. All these really great, and that's kind of like what kind of set me off into making like personal comics and stuff. And I made the aforementioned Steve Winchell. When we were in college together, he had there was a campus newspaper that had comics in it. It was all student made. That's when I started making comics through that. And Steve was the editor, so he encouraged me to do it. I didn't know how to draw, and so this was all like anyway. So I had been making comics in a personal vein for a while, and then I was just like, what? And this was like 2019. I was like, what if I made a gaming comic now? Yes, I was like, I was like,
Say
maybe I
yes
should have done
to
this a
the
while
devil.
ago. So I just started doodling it, and that was just the gimmick. And it wasn't going to last very long, but I noticed that people seemed to think they were funny, like they were really getting spread around. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. I guess maybe I'll do this more, but there wasn't really like a hook for me to like keep it interesting. And then eventually I started, like, when I started posting them, I started making actual like digital versions of them, and I started signing them as Sean Tuckley. That's a name I threw together. It's based off Tim Buckley, but with my name. And it was just like, whatever. I thought about it in 2 seconds. Sean Tuckley. And what it kind of turned into was that I wasn't making the comic. They were actually old comics from the mid 2000s made by a guy named Sean Tuckley. And like, the thing I remember about everyone who used to make these comics is that they're always like, some of them are very nice people, but very often over the years they would turn out to be weird cranks who had their own weird personal issues that would come out in the comic, or their own I remember like that comic Sinfest. If anyone remembers the comic Sinfest, that guy went crazy. He has like he became like a big turf like that. That was like his arc. Like all these people had like these weird, like they would be like weird libertarians or all this various stuff, and all their weird personal issues would come. Like there was all these old comics I remember reading about, like how much they hate children and stuff like that.
Oh
and
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's such a thing. All this different stuff.
That's part and parcel with the mid 2000s art atheism.
Yeah, the art atheist stuff. There's a lot of atheist stuff. There's like a big arc in Control Alt Delete about like a gaming religion, and all the other religions are mad about the gaming religion and they try to stop it. But then they're like, "You say my religion's fake. Well, what if yours was fake?" And then there's literally a panel where all of their mouths are like hanging down. They're like, "Oh my god!" Like he exposed us. Like it's that kind of like. So it's all that kind of stuff, and I really love that. So basically, the theme of the comic, I started a Twitter account for it. I was like, I'm going to start a Twitter account for Red Ring of Death, and post it. And then eventually, as I started posting it, I'll give Steve Winchell again full credit for this. He suggested, he's like, you should start acting like he's a different person, and you should post a thing about how he's in jail.
Yes.
And I was like,
slam dunk.
and I was like, that's funny.
Slam.
I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. So literally, I posted a thing that was like, just so everyone knows, as of now, Sean Tuckley is still in prison, and that I think changed the trajectory. So now the narrative of the comic. So the comic is there. The comic is, I'm just making this comic that supposedly existed. I'm posting the archives of it. That's what I'm doing supposedly, and that. Sean Tuckley has been in jail for there's this whole story like Sean Tuckley has been in jail for 5 years for charges that have never been fully specified, and everyone keeps asking and I keep saying I don't want to dwell on the negative, and the voice of it, I guess, of the Twitter account is that like I'm like just a big fan of the comic, and I've become, because and the comic was scrubbed from the internet, I'm posting it now. And now, because I'm posting the archives, I now have like a relationship with Sean and his legal team that is very adversarial. There have been various moments where he has like threatened to. He's like, and I'm always posting it. I'm like, yeah, well, I got this note from Sean saying he's gonna escape prison and come beat me up, and I don't take these threats very seriously, so I'm just gonna keep posting, and people start playing along with it, which is my favorite part of this.
Yes.
I did this on Twitter. I haven't been doing it quite as much because of the state Twitter is in, unfortunately, and I'm very upset because there's like a little, not like a very big following for the comic, but there's like a decent one. But people started playing into it, like kind of this little fan base started growing of people who just started pretending like it was real. And pretending like they used to post on the forums, like the Red Ring of Death forums, that Sean Tuckley did. That like, oh yeah, I posted on the forums, and Sean, I told Sean that this comic was about him having erectile dysfunction, and he banned me, or like because this is based on a true story. Like he was like, oh yeah, I posted some fan art, and Sean tried to sue me. Because that's a thing that Tim Buckley did. He threatened to. He didn't. Somebody posted like a fan video of Control Alt Delete at some point, and Tim Buckley posted this long thing of just like, you know that I can sue you for this, which is an insane thing to say to a fan of yours, who loves your work so much that they made this. So that I just thought that was funny. So now there's a long thing like he was a libertarian candidate for president in 2011. That's a big thing that in the Sean Tuckley thing. So many various things about it. And again, similar to the Dr. Hornet thing, this character is like very now it's like a very personal like now it's like there's some of me in this. God help me, there is, but it's also like it's just like an amalgam of all these very strange people who because to me it's so fascinating. Like there are these people who, and I say this with all due respect to people who made webcomics in the 2000s. Certain people got really famous and rich off of it like a really slim band of time. There was like a 5-year window where you could do that with a webcomic, and you could have a webcomic that was popular enough where you could like buy a house.
So I'm glad you said that, because that is an aspect of it is like, it reminds me of like the N64 collect 'em ups. Where do they all go? Like they're not around anymore.
Right.
It's, the idea that you have your successful, lucrative gaming comic.
Yes.
Is a dead world.
Yes. It's like generally like, the old, it was like the last generation of like popular cartoonists, really.
Yeah.
Because it's like you look back in like the early 1900s and you had people like Al Cap was really popular. That guy had that guy was on like TV and stuff, and he just had like some comic. And it's just like, that used to be a thing. And so like that webcomic was like the last period where these very strange people who made these very niche comics made a lot of money and got a lot of attention, and very often
no one now.
Yeah, exactly. They're on an island, like nobody, it's such a weird thing to get famous from.
Yeah.
And so like they're just, and so all of their weird, horrible personal issues are brought to light, and it kind of shines a light on it.
One thing about Red Ring of Death, and this already goes with what Joe was saying before. I mean, it's funny in that the joke of the strip, the one that's in the text, is funny. But then the thing that really pushes it over the edge is that, and especially, I mean, if you are us, if you are a person of our age, there's the added pain of like, there was once a time I would see a joke like this and I wouldn't laugh making fun of it. Like, I saw this joke. I saw the smug eyebrow guy saying to Jack Thompson, it's like, gaming is actually art. Ever heard of a little something called Bioshock?
Yeah,
and I'd
Jack
be like,
Thompson
Woo!
he was such a boogeyman. And it's like,
I was really wrong about him. He was trying to get people to
he
play
was trying
less.
He was trying to. Yeah. We all owe Jack an apology. He wasn't a very good man, but he was he was like really weird, and like he got his I think he was like he got removed from the bar or whatever. Like he can't practice law anymore.
Remember how Ebert was the villain? Everyone hated Ebert.
People really hated him. Somebody said something really mean. I don't remember who it was. That's a running joke in Red Ring of Death. One of the early ones is about Roger Ebert, and I do a running thing where I keep saying like, everyone keeps asking for this, and no, I will not be posting the comic that Sean made after Roger Ebert died. I'm not posting it, and you will never see it again. Like I have some scruples, and you will never see that.
It was the funniest thing to be like the hobby horse of literally every single one of these cartoonists. Because like in retrospect, you know what it was? Someone said, "Hey, are video games art?" And Roger Ebert's brain is like, "Video games? What are those? It's fucking Pac-Man.
Yeah,
it's beep boop." No, that's like a game.
He was like in his 70s. What do you think he would think? Like, it's one of those things. Like, why do you care if Roger Ebert? Like, he's an older man. Like,
180
it's not
on it anyway, right? He had like, I was misinformed on this. There was a follow up before he died. Not that it matters, but
it's why do you care? Like, if you enjoy video games, if you consider them art, then why do you care? What do you think? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, just enjoy it for what you think. Like, and what does it even matter? Like, I don't. It's to me, it's such a it's kind of a meaningless argument anyway. Yeah, it's like Anyway.
You know what it is what we talk about. You got these fuckers did not have sicko mindset, and this is part of it. This this is part of their whole stupid fucking gaming webcomic shtick, where everything has to be about gaming, and their epic gamer wife is like, Three things I like the most are pizza, Call of Duty, and showing you my boobs.
Yeah. That was such that was a big thing.
But these people have made, in an absence of a personality and an identity, they have replaced it with these products that they have decided they love. And not only do they love, it is them. Like, they are a guy who plays Fallout, a guy who knows about fucking, I don't know, Final Fantasy.
Exactly.
And if someone says Final Fantasy sucks ass, what they're hearing is you suck ass. Whereas when I hear someone say Final Fantasy sucks ass, I go, yeah, they're all really lumpy. Anyway,
I'm just
I love
like,
them.
it's one of those things where it's like you have to just, like, for me, it's like I don't know, I'm this is something I'm self-conscious of, because I am sometimes, I think, guilty of getting like a little over defensive about things that I like really love a lot. But it's like, it's ultimately, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I love Final Fantasy, but it has plenty of flaws. Like there's so many there's a lot. I could give you a whole list of like all the problems I have with certain games and certain things. Like, I don't know, it's just, I feel like for anything you love, I mean, for me personally, sometimes I think I love things more when they are flawed. Like, I think flaws are kind of important.
I feel like if you aren't aware, like deeply aware of the flaws of the things you love, I don't buy that you truly love it.
Yeah, I don't know. Flaws are human. You know, it means that like the it's a piece of art that it was made by somebody. You know, like, so it's like that means something. That's like, you know, like I really like love like music that's kind of weird. Like, I really like bands that kind of have albums that are like kind of failures that are like interesting. Like, I'm really into that kind of thing. Like that sort of thing. Like, you know, or like movies that like somebody made that like this just didn't work. It was just a huge flop, and like maybe it's not perfect, but like there's a lot in it to kind of appreciate. Like, I love stuff like that. That's very much, yeah. So like, yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, people tie themselves around that. And again, the gamer identity is such a part of, I mean, not to be too grim about it, but like, yeah, you could see the build up to Gamergate in these comics a lot of the time. You can see that. And like, I try with Red Ring of Death, I try not to go too dark in that direction. Like, I have kind of scruples with this, where the reality of it is that I can't fully do, or I wouldn't feel comfortable fully doing a full 100% recreation of comics from that time, because a lot of those comics from that time were really racist, really misogynist, really nasty in those ways. And for me, it's like I can do. You have to kind of ride a line. It's hard to explain. I'm a really big fan of Dark Place. You know Dark Place, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place.
I know, but I've never looked at it.
That might be like a homie watch event. I think you would really get a lot out of it.
It's a wonderful show. It's one of my favorite shows. But basically, it's like a parody. It's a parody of you know, like 80s shows. It's sort of like kind of like 80s like sci-fi horror shows. And it's like it's very funny, and it like recreates a lot of it, but it, like they do a really good job of kind of like writing a line. It's also like Spinal Tap. I feel the same way about, where it's like they write songs that are like you can laugh at it and be like, God, that's really like offensive, but you can always tell that you're supposed to laugh at it. You know what I mean? Like, even when they go, like, Spinal Tap goes so hard into like misogyny, like Sex Farm, which is like this absolutely repulsive song, but you never listen to it and think like, oh, like they went to, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is actually like, you just, because it's always just like, God,
the joke's on them. The joke is on, can you believe this dumb fucker?
Exactly. And so like, I always try to ride that line with Red Ring of Death. I don't think I've crossed it yet. I'm trying to be very careful about this. I'm currently working on a comic. I'm working on an arc right now where Osama bin Laden lives with Sean.
Yes,
that's a key 2005 figure. That's good.
He's gonna he ends up with Sean and becomes a gamer and
he regrets 9/11 then, right?
Yes. And because he realizes that he loves games. This was inspired by Osama bin Laden actually having like they found like a bunch of like ROMs and stuff in his camp.
Yeah, he had Animal Crossing.
Yeah, exactly. This is and this predates it, so it's going to be a joke of like, oh, Sean knew that he was a gamer. But then it's also like it opens the door for like one of them is going to be like, I need to call George W. Bush. He's got to get down here and catch Osama. And so I'm trying to figure out how to draw a really horrible looking George W. Bush. But basically, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna do my best to do this without. I don't want it to be offensive to anybody in like an actual way. I want it to be 2005 offensive in a way where you can just be like, God, you fucking idiot, like that kind of thing. And that's it's a tricky thing to do. You gotta ride that line. It's.
I just wanted to say, this is apropos of nothing, and as we are about to wrap this segment up, I just need to say this publicly. One of the web comics I read when I was like 14, 15. Remember this fucking comic? Nothing Nice to Say. Anyone out there read Nothing Nice to Say? Imagine if Penny Arcade was about hardcore punk. So like instead of talking about like Halo 2, they're talking about like 24-hour revenge therapy by Jawbreaker. I read that. I read so much of that. What the fuck was wrong with me? What was I thinking? I understood like none of what they were saying. I was 14. When they wouldn't talk about Husker Du, I'd be like, oh shit, I know that. I got that at Borders. Yes.
Yeah, I got
the punchline.
You brought this up to me earlier, and I was like, I don't know if I know this comic. And I'm looking it up, and it's like, oh no, I knew it. This is Mitch Clem. I know him. He still does stuff, I think.
I mean, I should hope so. I don't
know. But yeah, no, I do remember this. Yes, there was also this comic is gone now. There was like a what was it called? It had like a Guitar Hero kind of look to it, but it was like a Control Alt Delete, but it was about like rock music. God, I don't remember what it was. It wasn't very good. That's one I gotta look up. I don't remember what it was called. This is useless.
And y'all read the White Ninja comics? I looked back on those a while ago because I thought I loved those, and I'm like, I wonder if they hold up. Not really so much, but I mean they're not terrible, but it's just like, when I was 15, this was way better.
There is one comic. I'll say this real quick, but it's a comic I really want to do. One of these days I might try to do a parody of this in Red Ring. There was a comic. It's called Sarah Zero. Nobody was going to remember this because it was a comic that this guy posted in Something Awful looking for feedback, and everyone told him it was bad, and he lost his mind and he got really angry and then started. This is again a big Red Ring inspiration. He got really angry about it and then started making references to Something Awful in the comic, talking about how much he hated them. And it's one of the weirdest comics ever because it's not really a comic. It's just like every strip of it is like a 2-page spread, and it looks almost like an ad, like a really awful looking advertisement. Like it's the guy who made it is like not a very good artist, but like he was an experienced like graphic designer.
This sounds like outsider art.
Look this up. I think it's still going. I think he became like I think he took like a hard right turn also.
What a shock. Who would have thought?
Sarah Zero. Is it still up? Yes, it is. It's called an online graphic novel. And it's one of the most bizarre and upsetting things. I think it might be the most upsetting comic I think I've ever seen because it's just it's really pretentious and weird and just like inexplicable and terrible. I recommend everyone read it.
I just went to sarahzero.com, and the first thing I see is a big thing that says Happy Valentine's Day. It's this 19th annual Sarah Zero Valentine's Day sex drive. And then there's a big picture of what I assume is Sarah Zero.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, there it is. Yes, that is. I guess it's still going in some capacity. Jesus Christ. And it really looks the same. It really hasn't changed. Jesus Christ. So this is a big one. This is going to be the biggest deep cut I've ever done. Is I want to do a parody of this. I don't know how, but there's going to be some kind of parody of this I do in Red Ring. So keep an eye out for that, folks. Keep an eye out for Sarah Zero.
God. Wait a minute.
So
I went to the sorry.
I know. No, this is the reaction everyone has when they go back and read Sarah Zero.
So the first one is a picture of some waves in a storm, and there's a little cartoon person coming out saying everything is a metaphor for life.
Yes.
And the next page is a close-up of that what looks like a zombie coming out of the waves.
Yeah.
Drawn very badly. And life, I'm sure that's a metaphor for something even stranger.
Yeah. This comic did not get a good reception. People were like, I don't understand this, and it doesn't look very good. And Ace Plughead is the name of the person behind this comic. They were very, very upset. They were. It's really something. I will say, to its credit, I don't think there's really anything on the planet that is anything like Sarah Zero. So I will give them credit for that. Really nothing like it. Very special comic.
So hearing you talk about like the narrative structure of Red Ring of Death in the sense that there are primary texts being interacted with by a character, and there's like another person you are dealing with like legal issues and whatnot. That's House of Leaves. Do you understand that you are doing House of Leaves?
Oh yeah, I guess it is House of Leaves. Yeah, I read that a while ago. I do. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Gamer House of Leaves.
I don't know if you know this, but every time you write the word ring, Twitter automatically makes the text red.
Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode.
So I discovered this is something that Bakun posted ages ago, and I discovered it, and I sent it to Joe, and he had the same response that I did, which is, "Oh my god, and it was the only thing he could think of. I think still.
Yeah, my mind has been worn completely smooth by this.
It is, well, okay, I'll just tell you. It is the theme song for a short-lived, I believe, 6-episode 80s sitcom called Suzanne Plachette is Maggie Briggs, starring Suzanne Plachette, if you could believe it. And she is a spunky girl reporter. And this is back in the day when it was a very common thing that a sitcom would have like a real funky like synth and bass theme. Remember Night Court?
I miss this so much. Yes, I could go off on this for a while, but I miss TV themes so much. It's just not a thing anymore because of streaming. It's just not really a thing anymore. I love opening titles. I love opening themes. But yeah, this is I remember that. This is weird as hell. What's going on with this?
Yeah, you had your Night Court, you had your Barney Miller. This was like a thing, and like they're pretty good. So keep in mind, what would happen if you took that style, which tends to be good, and you just like became deranged like 10 seconds in? Because you'll hear the first couple seconds and be like, I don't see what the problem is. Then you'll know. When it happens, you'll know.
The thing about this music is that it attaches to no image. Even though we are seeing people working at the newspaper store, there's no connection.
Yeah.
This music slides right off.
Like, the first time I watched it, I figured, like, oh, I'm having an episode. But eventually it'll pass.
The tweet is, from Bakun, the tweet is, this is the worst TV theme song I've ever heard.
I'm going to play it. I'm playing it.
I don't know. Is that a voice? Is that
Yes.
like a vocoder voice? Yeah.
So I hear no.
And here it comes.
That's the Mario Kart part.
Yeah, it is like Mario Kart, yeah. That's a weird... What a strange turn that is. What happened? What happened there? Like...
Key change!
They found time for a key change. It's only 48 seconds long. Wow.
So I'm humming this. I guess you could call it humming. I don't know what this
It kind of reminds me of that. What was that Sonic game? That like Sonic RPG where like they like didn't have like a budget for the music or something, and they had to use these like weird MIDI songs that just sound like garbage. It reminds me of that. It's kind of like it's like it takes some turns there that I just didn't. You just wouldn't expect music to take. It's kind of thrilling.
The vocals are, I would describe, non-human. Like,
It's how a Neanderthal would sing.
Yeah,
because they have a different body shape.
And then all of a sudden, all the other
worst chords in
instruments
the
drop
universe.
out, and it's like, yeah, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, whoa, okay, race is beginning.
because like the even with the Neanderthal, it sounds like no human speech I've ever heard in my life. Even with that, like it's sort of like an upbeat, like we're having fun.
There's a melody to it.
But then there's again, all instruments drop so that like the most horrific dissonant synth chords.
It's like throbbing gristle. It's like a throbbing gristle album. It's like Holy shit. Like, wow. Like, it's kind of daring to put that on television. I got to say.
That's why they canceled it after 6 episodes.
Sadly, people were just like, I don't know about this. This is back in the day when, and this is the thing, this is back in this day when even like bad shows very often would have very catchy theme songs. They were just giving them out back then. Like, they were just knocking them out.
Fucking, like, I've had to take a lot of effort and take pains to stop myself from just going around going,
I will find myself like it's coming out of me like gas.
There's a video I'm obsessed with. I'll maybe send this to you guys because it's very funny to me. There's a video of like somebody posted like this whole thing of just like previews for television for like sitcoms, I think on NBC from 1979. Oh. And apparently it was like this legendarily horrible mid-season of TV where like they just didn't have anything and they were just like, we're going to greenlight all these shows and just like do all of them. And all of them got almost all of them got canceled within like 3 episodes.
Oh, hell
and so
yeah.
like this was all you had to watch back then in 1979. So and you watch this and it looks like it's like you're watching something from like another universe. It's just all these shows you've never heard from, and they all have like, some of them are pretty bad, but some of them are like kind of catchy theme songs. And it's like, what the fuck is this? I've never heard of this show before. It's like, it's so fascinating to me. There's like one that was like some show called like Super Train, and it has like this like disco theme about getting on, and it has like this big expensive train that they had to pay for, and it was like one episode. It never got off the ground.
Blew the budget on Train.
There was like an Animal House spin-off TV show that got canceled in an episode. Like there's all these Animal House ripoffs and an Animal House show because this was 1979. It's insane. It's crazy.
You did send us this other TV theme.
Yes.
Which is...
This was... Yeah. My friend Ben is obsessed with this, and for good... Oh, yeah, there it is. Super Train. Yes.
The Adventures of a Nation Spanning.
Yeah, and it's Passengers. All right, this is a theme song for Maniac... There was a Maniac Mansion television show, and I don't know if people know this. It is an adaptation of the video game, of the LucasArts game. I don't think it has anything to do with it, but
is that the one with the tentacle, like the tentacle who walking around?
No, that's Day of the Tentacle.
No, that's Day of the Tentacle
from Maniac. I thought maybe it was a spin-off.
I think it might be. Yeah, my friend Ben Vigent would know better about that. I'll have to ask him.
Anyway,
but this is yeah, and Joe Flaherty was in this. That's like
No
the one
fucking
person
way.
I recognize. Yeah, he's like the main guy in this. That's the one thing, and I guess it had 3 seasons because this is the season 3 intro.
I thought I read the name Eugene Levy was in there too.
He's a producer on it.
Oh, she just put up the money.
He was involved in the production of it in some way.
I just want to say before we play it, like, what do you think the mood for a song about a maniac man, a mansion full of maniacs? Like, how
From like the late 80s, like late 80s theme. Probably going to be
It'll
like
at least be spooky.
Yeah,
probably wacky or at least upbeat.
a little
like
kooky. A little
Yeah,
kooky, upbeat,
yeah.
maybe some xylophones, skeletons.
Yeah. You
What-
kind of get, it's going to be catchy and, something like that. Yeah.
Well, let's see how it actually is.
yeah. What is it? Yeah, there's Joe Flaherty. Yeah. Yeah, it's just the weirdest thing. Like
I'm falling asleep.
yeah, it's like why is it so slow and dull?
You know what would really jazz this up?
It's like, all right.
Okay, that's enough. We don't do the
It's just like I don't know what they were thinking with that. It's just very,
very
very
dreamy.
strange. But they kept that. That's it's season 3. They kept that. That was the same theme they had through the whole run. They never changed it. They stuck to their guns on that. Good about. I miss TV themes a lot. So, something that kind of drove me crazy about. This is such a specific thing, but about the recent One Piece adaptation. I won't go into it too much. But they didn't do an opening theme and they could have. They
didn't.
could have. They had one from the anime that is beloved that they could have used easily.
I would even liked Yayo Yayo. Here's how the story goes.
Sure,
There's no
you
doubt.
could do that. Do that. Why the hell not? Do it. But they didn't. They didn't do it. They didn't do either, or any of them. They just did nothing. And it's just like I get it. It's like it's just a streaming era thing. They just don't. And same thing for closing type. That is a reason why I honestly why I love anime a lot is that they still put a lot of work into opening themes and closing themes.
Yeah.
They care about it a lot. And I love that. I think that's great. It's like the last medium of television that does that. Everywhere else, it's like they kind of don't care anymore. It's sad.
Like
lost art.
I didn't watch the most recent JoJo season, part 6. Part of it was because I sort of had enough of JoJo, and other was because of the release. The big Netflix drop of jillion of them, and it's just like,
right.
It's a lot of work. But I did specifically seek out the opening and closing themes because I'm like, I know that the final enemy stand is going to really is really going to fuck with the opening theme.
Yeah. What did they use? Because they always use or at least for the closing theme, they use like a known song.
Yeah.
Did they pick something for that?
I know the first
remember what it
half
was.
was "Distant Dreamers" by Duffy.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know what the second one was because
JoJo. I know that they did very famously. They used "Savage Garden" for season 4. It was perfect. What a wonderful choice.
Okay, I don't want to get too much into this, but like one of the things
Roundabout by Yes. Yeah. I know that's like the big one, which is also great.
One thing I truly disdain about anime fans is the thinking like they need to be able to predict what's going to happen, like based on the power scaling. Like I'm going to need to predict, and it's just like, you fools. Like if the thing that you predicted actually happened, that would be a fucking tragedy because you are a gormless rube, and if you are able to if you are having the same thoughts as the artist. Oh no, we're in dangerous territory. So people always think for part 5, he's a gangster. It's going to be Gangsta's Paradise. No, this is why Iraqi is better than you. What it is when every time I close my eyes, I wake up feeling so horny.
Yeah, great. What a wonderful choice. Wonderful.
I was flabbergasted when it played for the first time. The first episode ended of that season, and I was like, all right, what's the song going to be? And it was such a undersell.
When it's the first time they say horny, it's like I didn't hear that right.
They just got the word it's just right there. Part 3, the second half of part 3, because the first half is Walk Like an Egyptian, but then the second half is the Pat Metheny band.
Yes,
it's just
he is
all right,
a jazz guitarist.
Yeah, it's just great. Sure, great. Not what I would have expected at all, but and same thing for Savage Garden. Really, I mean, there's a lot of 90s choices you could have picked, but Savage Garden is what a beautiful choice. I really and I think Savage Garden were very happy about that.
Yeah,
I think they're big weebs. So
I think the Pat Metheny group I know put out a compilation, a best of compilation, and the album cover was the picture of the fucking Stardust Crusaders that they took.
I think Savage Garden did that too. I think they both did that.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
if you're the fucking Pat Metheny group, who's listening to you? Jazz guys, like 1,000 guys tops.
Yeah, and it's they made Roundabout by Yes popular again. It's just and it's that's the the one of the nerdiest bands of all time. Yes, who I love very, very dearly. But they had albums with classical music and shit, and a singer who has the highest voice next to Geddy Lee, and it's just they're just for dorks, they're for Dr. Hornets, so it's for them to suddenly people are memeing this song now, the kids love it, these kids are using Roundabout by Yes.
I mean, I think
what a blessing.
A real significant reason why JoJo's caught on, this is not a gag, is especially because part 1 is the worst part. I mean, it's fun.
It's a PowerPoint.
It's a PowerPoint. It's got no animation, and the story is what if the vampire What if he had to go get him? Like, that's the plot. But the reason they caught on, I seriously believe this, is that Roundabout has such a long and quiet intro before the boom, before the bass hits.
It's perfect for a build up to a to be continued.
Yes,
it works so well because it has that long intro.
In no other parts do they play the song before the credits.
Yeah, they never play
part one. The credits hit with the boom, the bass.
Yeah, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, it's so good. And I my current status with JoJo is that I'm still I have to pick it back. I left it off in part 4, which I enjoyed a lot, but I have to pick it back up. So I haven't seen 5 or 6 yet. I kind of I remember a lot of people telling me they didn't like part 1, and I get it. I completely understand why. But I remember watching it and being like, this is pretty fun. I like.
Yeah.
They got fucking. I knew I was gonna like it when a big plot point was that Dio recruited Jack the Ripper.
Yes.
I'm like, I think I'm gonna like this. I'm just like
England's most fucked up guys.
I'm like, he's like, I have Jack the Ripper on my side, and he will fight you. I'm like, that's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. Sure, great.
The thing that caught my interest about it, even though there's no animation, was that vampires could suck your blood by just kind of putting a little bit of a finger in you. Yeah. I've not seen anything do anything like that.
Is that a Japanese folklore thing, or was that like Araki being like, I don't want to have to draw mouths doing that. That's too hard.
It's easier to just assume he's a genius.
That's true. Gosh.
I think that is a good assumption. Yeah.
If you are a manga reader, if you're not just only watching JoJo's on the anime, everyone says part 7's the best part, and I gotta tell you, as a part 7 reading guy, I went into it ready to be like, sure, let's see, it's the best part by like a mile. It's like, holy shit.
Really? Because 7 is that the first one where he kind of like rebooted it?
Yes.
Sort of?
Yeah.
And
interesting.
The thing that
I'm gonna check
the
it
thing
out.
that truly makes it over the edge is that it is a monthly comic instead of a weekly comic, and everyone jokes that the problem, the weakness of JoJo's is that the plot is just like jingling keys. Like what's actually happening on screen is like, oh fuck, another chapter in 1 week. Oh fuck. Oh, thank God I come up with 20 pages. I can rest. Wait, no, fuck, another one.
Yeah.
So like he's actually able to like write a story. It's still a little lumpy, and he definitely changes his mind about a lot of stuff from the beginning to the end. However, it like
is less sweaty.
Yeah. And also like the thing that you're sold is what you get. Like the part 6 is like, this is a like a women in prison, like gritty prison drama. It's like, that's dope. And then there's like a couple arcs of that, and then it just becomes some other shit.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I need to like, I gotta, because I have only seen the anime so far. So I do need to, I have a book. I do have a volume of the manga that's from the Stardust Crusaders era. That's really it has part of it has like the card game in it. So I'm really which is great. I just love that like in part 3 it's like I really like that so much of the action is not even fights. It's just like a card game, or it's just literally playing video games.
It's a baseball.
Like literally, like it doesn't necessarily always in JoJo have to be like a fight. It is sometimes just like because of the stands, it's just like a very strange, like a card game or some like weird alternative fight that's just
puzzle.
like something. Yeah, exactly. I really like that. That's so strange. I really enjoy that.
There's like a fight in part 3 that's just Joseph Joestar like running around being magnetized.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Like the thing that makes, because Star Platinum is the boringest, not the boringest, but like he's the first thought of a stand, which is like,
right.
My guy has a really strong ghost that he can summon, and he's the strongest one at punching.
Yes.
And it's like, well, how do you write for that? How do you make that?
Yes.
Well, like the way you write for it is the Star Platinum never gets in a fight. Star Platinum. Star Platinum needs to solve a puzzle, and the reward for the puzzle is you get to punch the bad guy once, and then you're done.
Yes, but Star Platinum is also good at puzzles. Like Star Platinum is good at it. Like,
I mean, that's why our boy's the hero.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's not just strong; he's also very smart. Like that's what makes him different.
I need to revisit part 3 because it also
Yeah.
has the thing where Jotaro is turned into a child and he still kicks the guy's ass because he's like, I've always been beating people up.
Yes. Unlike my rest of my crew, I was never weak.
Yeah. That's great.
It's just wonderful.
Oh, what a delight. What fun. It's just a good time.
We're the anime sickles, and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crimes way.
Some people come up to us and say, "Anime sicko, is that show about anime?" No, we haven't like the amount of anime we have watched is an outlier.
I hate those cartoons, man.
You may as well say we've never watched it. It's like the fact that we have ever seen any series is an outlier that should not be counted. We disdain these awful cartoons. No, we like them. It's just we don't get around to it. But Sean is here to save the day and allow us to keep the license, the registration for the Anime Sickos podcast name. We have the boys down at HQ are telling us we have to change this to Complaining Sickos, and we don't want to do that. So he's going to be able to save our license. Sean, take it away. What are you watching?
Sure. So I'll go. I do little weekly anime nights for myself because I'm a single man. I live alone. I have a little projector in my bedroom, and I set up little things where I will literally just program some anime for myself, and then put in little. I chopped up a bunch of Toonami bumpers. So like broadcasts of Toonami and stuff, that are like little 3-minute segments. I spent like a lot of time doing this. And so basically I'll just throw on random 3-minute little Toonami things in the middle. So there'll be like the commercial breaks in between. And then I'll just do like a block of anime that I watch.
That's
a lot of it's
moral. That's so moral.
I know this is just what I do. So I'll just rattle off. These are a bunch of ones I've watched recently. It was either I'm currently watching or I just finished. Keep Your Hands Off Aizuken, which is wonderful.
Yes.
I think you guys have probably seen that.
Yes.
And it's more modern. Wonderful. I loved it. Great. Wonderful. Watch it. So here's the ones I'm currently still watching. Watching The Rose of Versailles, which is classic anime from the late 70s, early 80s. Classic shoujo manga from the early 70s. It is a retelling of the French Revolution, or the lead up to the French Revolution. It is a historical anime, and it focuses on a Lady Oscar, who is the royal guard of Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France. And she's like a male presenting woman. Like she's a woman, but like she was raised as a boy. Her dad wanted to raise her as a boy. So people like kind of consider her a man, but even though they know that she's a woman, and they very often it's very, very gay. It's super gay, especially for its time.
This is like where Utena comes from.
Yes, absolutely, Utena and so many other things. But also it's like it was written by a communist. So
hell yeah.
It has a lot of class stuff in it, like all the stuff that's leading up to the French Revolution. Literally, like there are several people who have given like Bernie Sanders speeches in it, who were like, "Wow, the 96% don't have any money, and the 4% do have money, and they have all the money, and we need to take them over."
And another character says, "Thank you, Sakamami, for the music and the Rat Boys."
Oh, that's a deep cut.
That was a good week when it's like, what's the funniest band name for Bernie to
Soccer
say?
Mommy. But it's great. It's very like, it's obviously like an older show, but the art direction is really great. Like it's really like the colors are really gorgeous. It looks really good. It's really entertaining. Like it's so much fun. It's just like a really fun soap opera. I really recommend if you just like historical, like if you like The Crown and shit, you would like this show. I think like it's just so much fun. Okay, Legend of the Galactic Heroes I'm watching, which is another classic. It's the OVA that's over it's like 110 episodes, I think. I've been watching it for the last year and a half. That's how long I've been watching this. Slowly. It is an adaptation of novels. So it's one of the few anime that is not a manga adaptation or like an original. It is a novel adaptation.
Big boy words.
And yes, and it does feel that way because it feels like it's like Paths of Glory crossed with Star Wars is kind of what it's like. It's very densely written. The world building is very dense in it. It kind of feels like you're watching like a historical lesson sometimes. Like it has like it feels like that way, but like it's still, but it's great. Like it's wonderful. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen, probably. It's really great, especially for its time. Like, again, wonderful. Definitely recommend it. It's very, very dense. It's very strange in certain ways, but like it's great.
Is it like Gundam dense, where like there's like a fucking history lesson? Like you kind of said that, a history lesson episode where a guy in front of like a projector screen just tells you about like the empires and what they
There's
did.
about 2 or 3 episodes that do exactly that. Yes.
Oh fuck
and
yes!
They're actually like my favorite episodes of the show because
I
they're
love
really
that shit.
like the world building in it is like really interesting. Like they'll do a thing where like because basically it's about like it's about a democracy and an autocracy, like a royalty autocracy in space, basically. And they're just 2 sides that have been at war for a long time. And basically it's like, you can tell it was really written by somebody with like a historical knowledge, like a history buff wrote this. Because it's like these 2 sides are at war, but it's not like a very simplistic, like good guy, bad guy thing. It's very much like they're both at war. There's kind of like there's a lot of discussions about like the merits of democracy and all that. And both sides are like it's in like the first season they're both in like civil wars. Like it gets very like it feels like an adaptation of novels. Like it's very dense in that way. But it's great. Very much recommend that. Other side of the spectrum, I'm watching the Captain Harlock series. I'm watching Space Pirate Captain Harlock, which is Leiji Matsumoto, I think his name is. And it's just like a fun kind of lighthearted space pirate adventure. And that's another it's late 70s. Captain Harlock he's just a cool guy with an eye patch who has a ship in space, and he just talks about like I must follow my heart and shit. And the government like hates him. It kind of has like an early One Piece feel. I guess.
This sounds like my boy Luffy.
It feels like a One Piece inspiration. I think it probably was. But it's great. It's just a lot. It's very silly and kind of light, but fun. Like it has a charm to it. I like it a lot. And there's a ton of like Captain Harlock movies and stuff that I'm kind of watching. I kind of like that stuff. I'm going to read this and make sure I have it right. It's Gosenso Sama Banbanzai.
Yep.
I don't know even how to describe this show. It's a 6-episode OVA. It's by Mamoru Oshii, who is the guy who did Ghost in the Shell. It's the guy who eventually did Ghost in the Shell. He also did Angel's Egg, the movie. Which is a very weird, sad, beautiful movie. And I don't even know how to describe the show. It's like a bird. Every episode starts with like a little documentary thing about a bird, and then it turns into like an animated stage play, and with like a main character who has like a girl shows up to this family and like she claims to be the granddaughter of the main character. And there's this, and it's like a comedy kind of, I don't even really know how to describe this show, but it's very interesting. I like it. It's just very, very strange. It's only 6 episodes. I haven't finished it yet.
It's giving me Tatami Galaxy vibes.
Yeah, it is. Yes. I actually finished that not too long ago. Great show. It's similar to that. I think it probably was an inspiration on a lot of the Yuasa stuff later on. And then what are we at? Oh yeah, Hajime no Ippo, the boxing anime.
That's been going on since like 1903. It's very long.
Hajime no Ippo fucking rules. It's wonderful. It's just about a 16-year-old kid who wants to become a boxer because he wants to know what it feels like to be strong. And he gets bullied at school, and then he becomes a boxer. And it has some of the best fights I've ever seen in anything. It's so exciting. Every fight, literally, like the first fight in it is just him like. Or like the second fight is him just like in a sparring match with this guy who turns out to be his rival. And I literally like started like cheering during it. I got like so into it. I was like, oh my God. And because like the main character is just like a sweet kid who like loves his mom and is trying to like help his mom with her like fishing business. But that's it. It's so simple, but it's so sweet and great. Like the fights are so exciting. It's great. Wonderful.
Like that fight you just mentioned, like the sparring one, like it's not even like assumed he will win.
No,
like, the goal is to not embarrass
exactly.
himself.
Yeah, but he does like surprisingly well, and it's like, wow, this kid's pretty good. Like, oh, whoa, like
the only thing Joe told me about it when he was reading the manga is that there was a couple of chapters that were focused on how Ippo's dick is surprisingly pendulous.
I didn't know it was that. That has been mentioned in the show, in the because I'm watching the anime. I haven't read it. It's been mentioned a couple of times, but I didn't know there were a couple chapters based on.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I didn't read it.
No, they
it's
mention it. Yeah.
In the manga, it's like, how do we end the chapter? Oh, I know. We can talk about his huge dick.
Yeah. And the other guys are like, his dick is big, and he's like, stop talking about my dick.
Never been horny. Never been horny. Don't tell the paper that I ever got horny.
Folks, it's the end. That was a great episode, in my opinion. Joe, don't you agree?
I'm thinking about boxing now and all those fights.
You know what I'm thinking about?
Yeah.
Folks, we got
That song is the lube of life.
This is one thing that I came up with the other day. I gotta say, it's the genre is the same genre as that sex song.
Oh yeah. I know.
Sabat or something?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's the same genre. It's the same type of music. Anyway, we gotta thank our Guesto, Sean Rose. Holy shit, what a great Guesto appearance you did. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'm very glad to finally be on. This is great. The show is a delight, and very happy to be a part of it. Had a great time.
You have suffered the thing that many people that we know in real life from Chicago have suffered, which is, we're obviously gonna have him on. Like, we're obviously gonna have him on. But not this time. Because we gotta, but like obviously, eventually we're gonna have him on.
Yeah.
So it finally happened. And it worked out great. Sean, if people thought you were real fun and thought your projects were cool, what do they do? What's next step for them?
Sure. Well, there's a few places where you can follow me. I am on Twitter. I don't really use it as much. I'm at Jabroni Sean is my Twitter handle. I'm on there. I mostly post on Blue Sky now, which is the Twitter alternative. It's just, I don't know, low stress posting for the most part. And I'm at Jabroni Sean there. If you want an invite code to Blue Sky, let me know. I have like 10 of them. So just let me know. And I'll let you on there. But you can also follow, so Red Ring of Death, the comic, that is on Twitter and Blue Sky at RROD_comic on Twitter. The website where you can read it is redring-nation.com. Redring-nation.com. So the Hornet's Nest, the podcast I do, that's just like, you can find that on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and a bunch of, basically just anywhere you can find podcasts. The Hornet's Nest is the name of it.
Yeah. Where did you find this podcast, listener? There.
It'd be in the same place. Same thing for the Last Best Babylon 5 podcast. If you want to check that out, we're also, that's on Twitter at LastBestB5 and Instagram. We have an Instagram account for that at LastBestB5.
That's smart. We got to do
check
that.
those out.
We're never gonna do that.
Yeah, it's you don't have to. Nobody's making you.
The real smart thing is to fucking put clips on TikTok, but I will be tortured and killed before I do this.
I've always been like, that was the thing with the Hornet's Nest too, where I'm like, I gotta get like clips up in certain places, and it's always hard to navigate that. I don't know how to promote myself. I'm very bad at it. So,
I mean, this is the Chicago curse, but I mean, is it even a curse? We're doing great. Anyway,
I think we're doing pretty well. Yeah.
That's all the time we have for Anime Sickos. I'm smelling dinner in the background. I'm hungry for dinner. I gotta go get it. Anyway, all of which is to say, I've been Tom, an Anime Sicko.
I've been Joe, an Anime Sicko.
And I've been Sean, an Anime Sicko.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at Sharia Uncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.